Welcome to the Crimson Engine. My name's Rubidium. Today we are talking about contradiction and how difficult it is to start or even progress on your film journey when you hear almost diametrically opposed things from two equally good sources. You're told that you have to be absolutely committed and stand firm on your idea, but you're also told you have to be as flexible as possible. You're told that you need to have a singular vision, but then you're also told you have to collaborate openly and freely and as much as possible, accepting ideas from every source so that the people that you're collaborating with will be invested and you free all those good ideas. You're told that you have to always be moving forward, always be pushing, always be stalking down your projects and sacrificing everything for them. But at the same time, you're told that you need to have a good and a healthy work-life balance so that you can last long enough to actually succeed in filmmaking, so that people find out about what it is that you do. People find out that you're good at what you do. You can stay long enough to get good at what you do. And at almost every level of filmmaking, you'll get this same sort of contradiction. Like in cinematography, some really good cinematographers say, just keep it really simple, focus on the essentials, 3-point lighting, that will just focus on getting those things right. And other people will say, if you want a Hollywood style image, you need to use Hollywood style techniques and, dozens of lights, light the background, light the faces, have, all these complicated methods. And in a sense, they're both right, which is why it's so hard. And I don't blame new filmmakers for feeling confused and feeling like they're constantly getting mixed messages about what the way is to move forward. From my own experience, I have discovered that everything can work. You can find out a way to make anything work. You can find out a way to be totally dictatorial on set, have everyone do exactly your thing, exactly the way you want it. You can also find out a way to work incredibly collaboratively, where you never give anyone any direction and you just sort of say, well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? Some people make those type of movies. Other people make the very precise single vision ones. Some people work from a script and don't deviate a single word. Other people make the script up as they go along. And rather than contradicting us, I think this just gives us a sense that we are free to discover the way that we want to work, the way that we like to work, and that no matter what you produce, there is an audience for that out there. And if it's mainstream, there'll be a very large audience. And if it's indie, there'll still be a sizable audience. There should still be a way for you to keep making and monetizing your films. I flew back from Puerto Rico recently, and the girl next to me watched 2 movies. One was the Kiki Palmer comedy, One of Those Days, and the other one was In Bruges with Colin Farrell. Now, I don't think you can get 2 more different movies. They're both comedies, but they're both so different in their tone, in the way that they're shot, in their use of the way they portray violence, the way they tell their jokes. They are diametrically opposed, and yet the person watching them laughed at both of them. She enjoyed both of them. Same person. It's not as though we are these monoliths that I only watch this type of comedy or only watch this type of action movie. Sure, everybody has a favorite, but if a film is well made, if a film has something to say, if the filmmaker has created and worked on a style that is unique and gives us, the audience, the experience of seeing the world through a new set of eyes, the film will work. Now, both of those filmmakers, actually don't know who directed the Kiki Palmer one, but the guy who directed the Colin Farrell one, Bruges, I'm sure they did lots of music videos and short films and maybe another feature that they cut their teeth on, that they not only developed a style, developed a way of working, developed a way of writing, developed a way of producing, that got them an audience that gave the studio the confidence to invest millions of dollars in the next film that they made. But both of those people, developed those skills. You only get good at what you love doing. You only get good at what you do for years. And so I think the fact that everything can work is incredibly freeing. Some people like to get up in the actor's business and have these deep conversations about motivation and craft. Other directors stand well back and say, you're here to act. Whatever you bring is what I'm going to use in the film. And they have no dialogue with the actors about their acting choices, about the way they're acting. The Coen brothers famously are like this. They don't get involved any more than they go over and tell the gaffer where to put the light. They just trust that the people show up. And it can be really strange for people who are used to working a certain way, then looking at the way that's the person who's doing it in a diametrically opposed way of doing it, and they can think that is wrong. That's the wrong way to do it. You have to talk to your actors, or you're not allowed to talk to your actors. You have to operate your own camera, or you should never operate your own camera. You have to also be the producer, or you should never be the producer. Both of those things can work. And so it's up to us not so much to choose the right way, but to discover the right way to do something for us as the filmmaker. You might like working with a really big crew. You might like working with no crew at all. What is the thing that gets you excited to go to set? That's the thing that you should work out how to make work. There are a lot of complete introverts that end up being filmmakers who have very little contact with other people. They are, shooting on green screens, or they're animators. They have worked out how to tell their story in their way. And so I would encourage everyone that's working in film to at least try doing it a different way to see if you can get a different result. And even if you don't like working with a bigger crew, at least that when you're working with a small crew or you're doing it yourself, you're then grateful that you don't have to deal with all these questions, all this logistics, all this money. You don't have to deal with all of those invoices and, health insurance. So you appreciate the way you do it far more if you at least occasionally get out of your comfort zone and see what else is out there. But it's up to all of us to, at least expand our horizons and see if we like shooting, if we're not usually someone who uses the camera, or if we like producing, if we're not someone who is typically on the logistical and financial side of films. That said, you really will make a career by finding out your own answers to these questions. There are really fantastic actors who do almost no preparation and just try and show up authentically and barely remember the lines. Like Brando could not remember lines. He used to have cue cards. He had cue cards, on the Godfather, one of the most acclaimed performances in 20th century cinema. Other people show up super prepared and memorize the script backwards and forwards, read it hundreds of times, and then allow themselves to be totally free on set. Other people go method and like live the character and get called by the character's name and speak in the character's accent for months and don't break character while they're on set. So, if actors can find their own way to get a result that they are happy with, then directors and filmmakers can as well. This also applies to the type of stories that we want to tell. Just because George Lucas made Star Wars and Spielberg made into E.T. and Christopher Nolan made Memento, we shouldn't take from that we have to make that type of movie as well to be successful. Especially Christopher Nolan has made a career out of zagging when everyone else zigged, of making really bizarre, strange, complex, almost purposely confusing films, when the conventional Hollywood wisdom is that you have to explain everything clearly and show the audience perfectly. He's resisted that and found huge success in resisting that. There was a great William Goldman quote that no one knows anything in Hollywood, right? Like, everyone will try and tell you, oh, this type of movie is going to work, that type of movie won't work. But there is a counterexample to any example that people are going to come out with. I will say that it can often take a little while for things to really kick in, for things to really make sense, and for you to get good enough at what it is that you're doing that it's worth other people taking notice. So if you try something and it doesn't work out in the way that you hoped it would, it's not as successful, it doesn't land, if it felt right to you and if you enjoyed the process, don't get up immediately. Give it another chance. Give it time to, develop, right? Like, if you really want to play guitar and enjoy the sound of the guitar and like the process of playing guitar, you won't get good for, a year of regular practice. It will be difficult to listen to someone who's starting a new instrument for the first 100 hours, say. So it does take time to be able to, learn these new skills. So, don't give up immediately. If you should follow what it is you enjoy. If you're able to get a great result by shooting with a big crew on a, Hallmark style movie that your heart isn't in, but you love how it turned out. If you didn't like the process, then why are you spending your time getting good at that? But if you love the process, it's fantastic. You just need to make movies and live the creative life that you can sustain, because it really is not about each film. It's about the years and the decades of how you're going to spend your life. I had someone pitch me an idea for a startup the other day, and they said, oh, but yeah, you could serve this role in the startup, and maybe in a couple of years we'd like walk away with $10 million each. And I thought, there's nothing that could persuade me to spend years, writing emails, going to meetings, commuting to an office, pitching to investors. It's just not how I'm going to spend my time. It's never going to be that. Doesn't matter how big the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is, because what would I do with that money anyway? I would just make the films and the content that I'm making right now at a slightly bigger level. Like, what would be the point of enduring all of those hours of those years of my life that I can never get back, doing something that I don't enjoy, that doesn't make me feel alive, that doesn't make me feel like I'm on the right path, in order to then try and use money to try and find my way back to the path that I'm already on now. So there's a great quote, how we spend our days is how we spend our lives. How could it be otherwise? It might be Proust. If you want to spend your days in meetings, in sending emails, reading through technical things, going to trade shows, whatever it is, that these big cinematographers do or big directors do, then pursue that. If you like that process, pursue that. I personally don't. And so I have no desire to, make a $100 million movie, because I know all of the crazy stuff that goes into that, or I have an inkling of it, of the months of meetings, of the months of shooting, of the years of post, to something that ultimately most people is ultimately disposable, will make money for the studio and then be forgotten about a lot of the time. Why give up what I'm doing now, which is making content I care about, shooting photographs that speak to me, that I really enjoy the process of taking those photographs, of writing and making films and making this kind of content that really makes me think, really engages me, really makes me feel as though I'm on the right path. I just don't see any reason to give that up. If I can support myself doing what I love, if I can put food on the table and a roof over my head doing this, why go find something else? That's been my eternal question. There's so many great filmmakers. I'm thinking of the guy who did Moon, David Bowie's son, who then went off and did, was chosen to go and do the World of Warcraft movie, which is, critically panned, disaster at the box office. I'm sure he didn't think much of it. Spent years of his life doing that. He already had David Bowie's tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. He didn't need the World of Warcraft money. And he ultimately, kind of probably fell out of love with filmmaking. He could have made, 10 more moons in that time. He could have worked with anybody he wanted. I just don't understand why filmmakers deviate from a path that they're obviously really excited by, to do these, soulless Hollywood blockbusters and get like torn apart by the machine. And that's considered a success story. So find the way that you love to work, find the people that you like to work with, find the subjects you like to explore, the questions you like to ask, the way that it feels right for you to spend the days of your lives, because that is the life that you'll live. Don't let your movies and your stories die inside you. Bring them out into the world. I have that website that's probably, by the time I release this up, it'll be live. It's storydna.org. I'll put a link in the bio, and you guys can check it out. It's all about storytelling. It's a very, very small little course. It's under an hour. It collects all the big lessons and epiphanies that I've had about stories in the last 2 decades. And it's not just for filmmaking, it's for every aspect of life. Check it out. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.